to inspire, innovate, and ignite conversations that count. And tonight we are talking about, are the voices in your head friends or foe? We all have them, the voices telling us what to do, what we're thinking, and asking questions. Yet for many of us, they may not seem very friendly and sometimes just downright mean. So this great set of panelists, I'm so excited to be with everybody. We're going to dive deep into conversations about this. And I'm Heidi Henyon, and welcome to our show tonight. What I'd like to do is have each one of our panelists give a brief, quick bio, and then at the end, they'll be able to talk even more about what they do. So I think if it's all right, I will call on you as it goes around my screen. So Sue, you're up first. Sue, you have to unmute yourself.
Do. Okay. First of all, I'm Sue Rumack. I am a tribe host here at Sacred U, Life Force Activators. But in my outside of Sacred U life, I'm an empath trainer. I am a channeler of inspired spiritual messages, angel messages. I'm an energy healer, an energy worker, and so many more things. And you'll find out more about me later on in our the conversation. I'm excited to be talking about the inner voices, something I've been talking to a very long time in my life. So I'm going to just pass this on to the next person.
Great. Thanks so much, Sue. How about you, Soulara?
Hello, everyone. So happy to be here tonight as well. I am Soulara Sevier, Reiki Master Teacher and Oracle. So tonight is going to be really special. I get a chance to talk about that Oracle portion of myself. I'm the founder of Soul Reiki Health, Beauty, and Wellness. And it's a holistic wellness brand that bridges the gap between mind, body, and soul. I'm really a firm believer that we're spiritual beings really having this physical experience, and we have to really bridge that gap and take care of the physical as well as the spiritual aspect. So I look forward to sharing more later on this evening.
Great. Thank you so much. And Saidi, how about you next?
Thank you. So nice to be here. Hello, everybody. My name is Saidi Bess. I am an energy healer, medicine woman, and founder of Healing Sacred Feminine. And right now, I'm just really passionate about supporting us all to unpack a lot of the very unhealthy belief systems we've taken on around our sexuality and our bodies that are keeping us from engaging in healthy and nourishing, passionate relationships, not only with the beloved and with another, but with ourselves. So, yeah, that's a little bit about me. I'm so glad to be here. Thanks all.
Great. Thank you. And Jennifer.
Hi, thank you for having me. I'm really happy to be here. My name is Jennifer. I'm also known as the Empire Heyoka. I am headmistress and founder of Rise University, and that is the first choose your own adventure platform for light warriors and spiritual warriors during this time, where we teach you how to balance body, mind, and soul through business, spiritual, and mental. Word escaped me, but different modalities to help you navigate through your journey. I am a Reiki master as well. I'm not really full medium. I am an oracle to some extent, a shaman, and I'm definitely a warrior in this great awakening that we are going through. So I am really excited to be diving into this topic because it was one of the first things that I really got clear on with the voices in my head and all the different ones that were chattering around. So I can't wait to see what everyone has to share about this. So thank you.
Great. Thank you so much. I'm so excited. I've been on panels with each of these ladies at least once or twice, and they're so brilliant. So I was so excited for you to join. And just real quick about me, I'm Heidi Henyon. I am on a crusade right now. It has turned into no longer my soapbox, but my crusade about all of us becoming our own best friend. And when we become our own best friend, the world changes and transforms. And as Jennifer was just saying, one of the first places we have to do that is with our own voices in our own head and how we can transform those. And so I'd like to read a quote real quick that I just love this quote. And it's by a gentleman named Jonathan Van Ness. It says, when people ask me if I was ready for my life to change, I didn't think I really understood what they meant. He suddenly became a star literally overnight. It wasn't just that strangers would know who I was. It was this other thing that started happening in me. When I looked in their eyes, sometimes there was this little voice in my head wondering, would you still be excited to know me if you really knew who I was? If you knew all the things I have done, if you could see all my parts and hear all my voices. And I just thought that was such a brilliant quote, because how many of us have those certainly wonderful voices in our head, but for many, especially I specialize with people that have been through trauma and abuse, especially pretty severe childhood abuse. And those environments, excuse me, have created parts in us and have created voices in us. And those voices serve a purpose, but most of us don't know that because we haven't stopped to talk to them yet. So I'm really excited to hear what everybody has to say about this, because it is, to me, it's so important that we make friends with those parts of us, because they were created at some point, I believe, in our development to really keep us safe, especially when you've had abuse and trauma in your life. So the first question that I have for these wonderful panelists, and I'll let you go popcorn if you'd like, or I can call on you, whichever is more comfortable, but just simply, what are your thoughts about the question, are the voices in your head friend and foe, friend or foe? And then the other thing is, what purpose do you feel the voices in your head serve? Is anybody drawn to go first? Jump in, Sue?
So I think voices in our heads was one of the very first things that I started coaching to 16 years ago. And we were working with inner critic, and all the people that came to me at that particular point in time had problems with imposter syndrome and feeling that they were a fraud, and always feeling that voice in their head was telling them that they were less than, worthless, fraud. It replayed all the negative abuse that they had experienced in their own childhood. For me personally, mine was that I wouldn't measure up. I was too invisible to be noticed, that I didn't have the right credentials, those kinds of things. Mm-hmm. And it wasn't until I realized that I had everything I needed, and that the voices in my head were just, I guess you could call them shadows or echoes from my past, and that wasn't who I was. And actually, everything they said that was negative, the truth was actually the opposite. I was the opposite of those things, plus, 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 plus. I don't have a huge ego. I still question my own credibility to myself, even though I've been doing what I've been doing for a very long time, and I'm credible. But right now, the way that I use the voices in my head is I use them as a barometer to tell me what the outside atmosphere is. So is the voice in my head actually reflecting what other people might be thinking about themselves? And I'm just picking it up as an empath, as if I'm hearing their thoughts in my head and owning those thoughts as mine because I can hear them. That's an empath thing. So to shorten this down so everybody else gets a chance to talk, are the voices in my head friend or foe? I consider them, regardless of what they say, to be a friend, and for me to negotiate where I truly am in that spectrum of thought. So friend, yes. How do I use them? I have a questioning process that I teach my clients how to manage those thoughts in their own heads, and I use it myself all the time.
Nice.
So that's my beginning. That's my opening comment on this.
Great. And so the purpose, if I'm understanding you correctly, the purpose that they really are for you, just to repeat, is there a barometer of what's going on in your world? Would you say
Yes.
that's true?
A
Nice.
barometer of what's going on in my world. It may not be my own voice I'm hearing. It
Right.
could be that as an empath, I'm picking up somebody else's thought,
Yes.
because we do that.
Yes, I had to learn that very much as an empath, because I would all of a sudden, even emotionally, start
Yeah.
spiraling. And I'm like, what is
Yeah.
going on? My life is really happy right now. And then I'd realize, yeah, I was picking something up from the outside world. Thanks
And
so much.
and the question, if I may, one last thing, the question I always remind people to ask is, when you get one of those thoughts that isn't likely to be yours, you would always, and even if you think it is, always ask, is it mine?
Mhm.
And your body, not your brain, your head, the intellect, don't pay attention. Your body will give you a strong hit, a sensation, a feeling of, yes, it's mine, and that's usually in the gut. No, it's not. It's in the heart. There you go.
Perfect. Perfect. Yes, our body is such an amazing tool when we learn to really tune in and use it and become friends with it.
Yeah.
Thanks so much. Who would like to go next? I think Jennifer, you had your.
Yeah, I'd love to dive into this. I didn't start recognizing the voices in my head until later in life. I had a divine experience, and that's what really got my attention to notice that there was something talking to me internally. I had always known that there was stuff that was talking to me internally, but I had a very abusive childhood. I got it. Went into alcoholism. I had addiction, and I did go into psychiatric treatment. And they ask you, are voices talking to you? And you don't want to say yes, so you say no. So I really suppressed that side of me for a long time. And it wasn't until I had my divine experience and I really took my sobriety seriously that I had to fix whatever was inside of me. And to do that, I had to pay attention to what was talking. The friend or foe, I can go back and forth because we live in a law of duality. And this space right here, it can be the worst space that you can be in. And it can also be a blessing at the same time, depending on what you look at. When I went through addiction, I also do entity removal. And I noticed that I had entities on me through addiction that was feeding into the thoughts that kept me trapped in that mental prison. For me to break out of that mental prison, I really had to analyze. I love how Sue said, analyze the thought, because it's not really yours. Some of the stuff that was coming up inside of me was what the bully on the playground said to me when I was 3 or 4 years old, what my parents or someone shot my dreams down when I was younger. Human design also taught me that because I have an emotional awareness, when the emotions flow through, it goes right up here, and we try to associate the energy going through us, like what's going on. And so we get trapped in this, but we can use it to our benefit, because usually whatever is coming up, and when we practice meditation and mindfulness, I always say, step back and look at your thoughts like the scrolling banner. Just let them go. And the more that you let them go and you don't give it energy, you can analyze, what is it, a friend at the time, or is it a foe? And you can, okay, well, if I struggle with, my self-worth and imposter syndrome big time. So when that comes in now, I'm like, okay, I don't like that. What I'm telling myself, what the voice is saying, let's rewrite it, reprogram it. And I work with the affirmations to do that. I've seen both sides of the foe. Was it the friend or the foe? But my first start is that just analyzing what the thoughts are, especially if you have a background of abuse, which I think everyone on this planet has. It's paying attention are the voices in your head yours first? And most likely it's not, and it's just digging deeper to find your voice. And that will eventually come when you're not giving energy into what things are playing in your head. It's exactly tapping into your body and listening to what your heart has to say. So
Yeah, great. Thank you so much. I appreciate what you're saying. And I do understand that. I also got clean about 37 or 38 years ago, maybe more now. Oh my gosh, it's almost 40. Oops. The age. And I remember when that happened, and you all of a sudden at that point, you kind of, for those of you who may be listening, at that point, you wake up sort of at the age you went into the addiction. So the voices that were running in your head that in many ways we use the outside or some other substance to calm down, they come up again. And so really paying attention to them, I love what you were saying, they're really, so many of them are just voices from the past. They're not actually anything that's happening now.
no, and a lot of mine was from my abuser. And that's what eventually kept me trapped in that. I was the revolving door. It took, I mean, I had to have the divine experience. But when I started to analyze, because it was me taking personal responsibility, I was like, wow, my abuse started when I was 3 or 4. And it was that program that had been playing my entire life. And as soon as I realized it and I plucked it, it was like it quantum heals. It will go on your timeline from where it inserted and will start to heal the journey until you are now.
Yeah.
That's why I love this topic. It's an amazing place when you know what is going on up there.
It is. Thank you so much. Soulara, Saidi, either want to jump in? Soulara?
Sure. I'll jump in. This is an excellent topic. I have to agree. And I feel so at home. All these empaths around me. It's wonderful to just finally feel like you all get me, right? I didn't grow up understanding what an empath was and didn't know that I was one until much later in life. I actually was a registered nurse for 16 years. And imagine being in a healthcare industry where it's just sick care. And I was going into this hospital and just constantly being bombarded with all of these energies and, staff and administration, patients, family. And I was just worn out, just physically worn out. And I just didn't know what was happening. So I had this spiritual awakening in 2011, like literally on December 31st at 11:59. Like I sat up and it was like I started looking up I was led to look up this information and I was like, oh my goodness, incarnated angel, empath, like all this information was just being downloaded and my hands were literally typing it. And I just felt such a sense of release and acceptance, like, oh my goodness, this is what's been going on. I didn't realize that this is me. And so I began to kind of walk back, experiences in my head where I would remember being able to hear people's thoughts. And I thought that something was wrong with me. I was just like, oh my goodness, like when I walk into a room, I know what people are thinking. I know what they're feeling. And so as those of us who are on the call understand it's difficult. It's difficult to feel safe. It's difficult to feel connected, and to be present 100%. So for me, I played it small for a very long time, not really showing up 100%, just kind of being comfortable in the background, so to speak, and, not really speaking my mind, being nice and things like that. And that took a toll on me as well because I wasn't being authentic. And I came here as, Jennifer was saying, this is an elevated time for awakening. And I'm here for the awakening. So when you're not activated and operating in those spaces and being aware of that and using your gifts, you're feeling like an imposter there as well, because you're like, wait a minute, I have all these gifts, but I'm like, my voice is like a mouse. I'm not really showing up. And talk about voices in my head. It was more of, for me, I'm not enough. And I didn't realize that until I saw I think it was a TED Talk. And this person was saying that everything is going to come down to not being enough. And for me, that was just an aha moment. I actually started making changes in my Reiki business to really focus the Reiki energy on feeling like you're not enough and how to lift those blockages. And, since that time, I've just been walking in this profound awareness. And it's just been really wonderful to go into the self-discovery from a different angle and, creating a gathering space for people to feel like, hey, I am enough. I am exquisite. I'm notable. I'm one of a kind, unmatched, genius, and hero. Like I really am here for a purpose. And so are the voices in my head friend or foe? Definitely friend. I think that these voices help us to really begin that journey of self-discovery. For me, I use those voices in my Reiki practice. That's what really sets me apart from other businesses. Like I said, the oracle part comes into play. I'm able to actually hear information that I can give to my clients that really gives them that step-by-step practical knowledge to help them, continue along their journey. I will share the first time that it happened, it was a little scary. I was working, on a patient, and I was not patient, a client in there, I believe it was their solar plexus chakra. And I was hearing information like someone talking to me. And I started looking around like, oh my goodness, who is talking to me? And why is it so clear? And so I was kind of nervous, but I just started asking questions of the client. And so she was answering them. And I had to tell her like, your grandmother is present. Your grandmother wants you to know. And I just said exactly what the grandmother was saying. And just to see the client on the table just break out into tears, just let me know like this is really important to utilize this gift. It's not about me and about, not wanting to, show up or what have you. It's about embracing who I am authentically. It is what it is. If friends or family fall away because I'm, out of the spiritual closet, then they have to fall away because I have to be present in here. So it's very nice to be in the presence of all of you all and what we're here to do. And so just to kind of reiterate the purpose for the voices in my head, it's just simply to help others heal and to help myself just ascend to those higher realms of consciousness.
Nice. Thank you so much for bringing that aspect of the voices up, because often we do get information and we'll poo-poo it, we'll make it go away and things like that. And especially if we're used to a certain pattern of voices in our head and these don't fit. And when we're transitioning away from kind of the relationship where our voices are not necessarily friends, then we hear many times we hear these good things coming through and we do want to kind of poo-poo it because it's not what we're used to. And that's another thing. So thank you so much for bringing that up. Saidi, love to hear from you.
Hi there. Wow, this is great stuff coming through here. What's been coming up for me a lot as I listen to this and upon reflecting on the question originally, I don't know that I necessarily hear voices in my head or hear words in that way, messages. What I hear and what I feel, I just feel. I feel the energies and I feel like there's knowings of things, and this is why, like, coming back to talking about belief systems, like there's just these belief systems that I have to that are just, some of them, not so much anymore, but originally were just very unconscious, like some old operating system that was not serving me. So learning but it didn't come out and say like, okay, you believe this and therefore that's upsetting you and, causing issues. So it was really learning to work with my emotions and feeling into my body, like what felt right, and learning to bypass the mental. I don't know if I'm explaining myself well, but for me, and then there was a time where I was just like, I recognize I still feel this way. I want to hear voices. I want to hear clear messages. I want to hear that. But as I'm listening to everybody talk, I'm like, I get very clear messages. They just don't come through in an auditory way. They come through in how I feel. They come through in what I know. There's just intuitive knowings that happen as I'm working with clients. Things just like messages come through, but it's in a different way. So it's just, I want to bring that in case people are listening to this saying like, I don't have that. I don't hear voices like that. We have feelings or, like, intuitions and experiences and feelings in our body of like knowing. And then there's ways that we will, what it really comes down to is what is it, does it move you towards love or does it move you towards fear? And if it's when we're looking at friend or foe, I don't think any of them are foe necessarily. Of course, we've got the entities like we're talking about, those want to suck your energy, a lot of them, some of them are just neutral, of course, but so those aren't necessarily your friend, but but again, that's a feeling experience for me. Like I'll know they're not talking to me. I'll know when they're around. I'll know when I am affected by one. It's how it feels in my body, like something is off. I went to a metaphysical health and wellness fair this weekend. And this morning I woke up just like feeling all weird and shaky. And I'm like, I picked up something there. I picked up some negative energy or some, energy that just isn't working for me, that's not really jiving. And I'm just like, okay, so, I had to clear that energy. But it was a feeling and a knowing, and if something is off. So it's learning to really listen to your body, listen to when you're not feeling in alignment with love, that's when that something is running, whether it's messages, whether it's a unhealthy belief system, whether it's something that is repeating for you, that is important when you're feeling joy and peace and serenity and in alignment and creative and that's a good feeling. That's a friendly. So I hope that that's coming through well. So it's kind of answering the question in a roundabout way, I think. So yeah, that's how I experience it.
Well, thank you so much. And thank you for connecting that emotional part to it, because so often one of the reasons that I know with the clients that I work with, they're not really aware of the voices in their head that may be coming up from the past or that sort of thing, is because they're feeling the emotion and they're getting caught in the emotion rather than learning to let the emotion flow, let their body clear it out, and then what's going on. And I want to use an example that happened in my life with this and this is one I think many relate to. We look in the mirror and we look at ourselves and it's like, ooh, you look ugly, or you're only seeing the one fault that might be there and you're not seeing the beauty that you are. And that used to happen to me a lot. And then it created that emotion in my body, which shut me down. And then one day I just decided to ask that voice, why are you there? Why are you saying this to me? What is going on? And it was very interesting what came out of that after a couple times of having that conversation. The first time the voice kind of shut down and went, there was a silence, which was really interesting and quite fun because it's the first time I'm looking in the mirror and there's silence. And then what came up was the voice of a very little girl saying, well, if I call myself ugly, then when my mom calls me ugly, I'm making her right and she's not mean.
Wow.
And I want to bring that up because I think that's an important understanding. The voices that we have, especially if they're negative ones towards us, they were created to keep us safe.
Oh yeah.
So there's two things here. One thing everybody's bringing up about the empath, which is so critical to understand. Some people are far more empathic than others, but all of us have some of that. So the question is, when a voice is coming in, when something's being said, it is that question, is this me or is this somebody else? Because for a long time, when I was going through traditional sort of therapy many years ago, they would say, oh, that's just the voice in your head. That's just your mom. That's just your mom. Well, the reality is it wasn't my mom. Certainly, I could still hear her voices saying things like that. But the little voice that really came up was the little girl in me just keeping me safe and saying my mom wasn't really that hard a person to be around. So I'd like to ask the other question is there any other purpose that you think the voices serve? And how do you cultivate a relationship with those voices? How would you maybe do that? And I know, Sue, you used to work with people around the critical voice, because that's the one most of us are very aware of, is that critical one, or the judge, the one that's either judging other people or judging you. Those are some of the major ones. And I'd just like your thoughts on that.
Can I go to the science side on this?
Absolutely. I would love it. I've been avoiding that because you know me, I'll nerd out on science. So I have to wait.
Okay. So that inner voice that we often hear, and this is now brain science. Okay. So if you go to the limbic brain system, which is your fight, flight, survival system, the limbic brain system, there is one small piece of it called the amygdala. And it's about the size of a peanut. It's that big, but it is all powerful, like the Wizard of Oz behind the curtain. Okay. And when you think in terms of the amygdala, that's the archivist in our brain. It's the storyteller, and it's the librarian who holds all of our life experiences and makes sense of them. Okay. So it takes whatever life experience you had, and there you are, that little girl, the little girl inside of you, saying that if you say that you're ugly before your mom says it, then it doesn't make your mom as mean. And that was to keep you safe from the hurt of feeling that your mom was mean. I mean, I'm not going to say all those things because we know what that means. But what ends up happening is that voice in our head is actually a version of the amygdala interpreting a number of stories that have all been amalgamated into one with one message. So it's taken all of that information on the situation that you're now facing, going, we need to keep you safe. You need to understand what's going on here. And of course, the amygdala will always take you to the safest place, which is basically to hide out or to freeze, play dead, go mind fogged, so that you can't really think. You're just going to be in that space until the danger passes. So scientifically, when we are in a dangerous situation, emotional, physical, spiritual, our amygdala connects with our neural survival system. It's a force field. It's an electrical force field that your body actually has outside of it, about its arm's length. And it reads the environment. The amygdala reads the environment, taking the temperature of the neural force fields, sending electrical pulses back, telling you where you're at. Then it says, it's this kind of danger because the vibrational frequency of that situation matches up with the vibrational frequency of situations that you've been in the past. And now it does a quick. It's faster than any computer, like split second fast. And it goes, okay, it's this situation. You're in this kind of danger, even if you're not really in that kind of danger, because this new situation is a new situation. But it goes back to a conglomerate of your past. It goes, and this is what we're going to do. We are either going to give you adrenaline to speed you up. We're going to give you dopamine to make you feel great because it's a good situation. It isn't always bad. Or we're going to set you into that mind fog freeze state until the danger passes. And so when we begin to understand that a lot of our physical, emotional reactions in various situations are based on our belief system, our old stories, that comes back to where Jennifer was talking about, and where Soulara and Saidi are all saying the same thing along with you, Heidi, is that our belief systems, our histories, speak to our current situation. And our brain creates the enzymes and hormones that we need to keep us what it thinks is going to be safe in that situation. And that's when we get to say, well, wait a minute. We need to have a conversation before you shut me down.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's those split second decisions where you decide, wait a minute, I need to think about this a little quicker, a little more before I go into my traditional reaction pattern. If I didn't answer all of your question, please phrase it one more time and I'll finish off the answer.
Well, you did a wonderful thing, but I think it was, how do we cultivate a relationship with these voices so that they
Conversation.
become our friend. Yeah.
You talk to
that's-
the voices in your head, and you become the litigator. If you're not sure of the answer that you've received, if it doesn't quite fit with where you're at, you go, tell me more. Instead of
Mhm.
going on the defense and going, no, 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 no. You say, tell me more. Why? Who does this really belong to? I understand that it might have been mine in the past, but is it mine right now? Does it still fit me? So, I mean, there are so many different questions that when you become that litigator, and as an empath life coach, those are the questions that I always ask my clients. I teach them to ask those same questions, because the whole idea is that we become, as empaths, we become independent in our gifts, and we aren't held captive by them or by those voices, the ones that could be considered the foe. But really, if you become the litigator, if you become the questioner, then you and they partner in your growth, and you're moving to that higher vibrational level. And if you look at vibrational levels, and you look at the megahertz, the electrical frequency of various types of emotions, the joy, happiness, love are the higher transcendent, ascendant vibrational frequencies, whereas hostility, negativity, pain, grief, loss, and all of those abusive emotions that we put ourselves through sometimes as well, because we know how to do that so easily. Those are actually, when you measure them on a megahertz electrical spectrum, they're way down there. They're down by 300 points over joy, love, and happiness, gratitude, appreciation. Those all fit right up there at the very top of the band. That's where you're going to do your ascendancy, is if you can find a way to negotiate your way up that hierarchy.
Yeah. Thank you so much for that, Sue. That was so well put. I'm so glad that you shared all of that with us. I do want to add something to that, which I loved what you were saying about, tell me more. Tell me more is one of my favorite questions. And I was recently at a conference that I thought was practitioners learning how to work with people with mental health and some of the newer techniques. What it turns out was it was actually a conference for people with a lot of mental health issues and problems. And so I had walked in there with my empathy pretty much wide open and not thinking about it. And I don't know, probably about 20 minutes in, I started hearing this voice in my head, judging all the people around me, which is not something that normally goes on in my head. It's like, it was silly things. It was bringing me down on that frequencies, like, oh, look at her dress and look at this behavior. And I stopped and I went, what is going on? Tell me more. And because I've become friends with the judge, like you were talking about, the ally, it was really interesting, because what I actually heard in my head was, this is the only way I could get your attention. Your empathy's wide open. Shut it down. You're being eaten alive. Because I was like trying to kill everybody. So that was a very interesting thing. And I loved what you said. It was almost like, because I'm not used to, unless things are going on, I'm used to staying in the higher vibrations when I can, or stepping them up. So when it dropped down so much, that was the only way. And it's like all the parts in me knew that the judge would drive me the most nuts, because the judging part. And that's how it actually got my attention. And that's something that I love. When we become friends with ourselves and all the parts of us, they will find a way, because the amygdala is trying to keep me safe, trying to keep me from doing that. That is its job. And I love the way you did the explanation. I'm going to use that. So thank you so much for that. Who would like to go next? And the question is, how do you cultivate a relationship with them? Have you cultivate a relationship with the voices and the parts inside you?
I'll piggyback on that. I love the science aspect, because I like to bring in science. two things that I recognized was one, cognitive dissonance, because if something does come up against our belief system, that's the first emotion. It's like a train wreck inside of you. If you guys don't know what cognitive dissonance is, and that's just the information that you are receiving from the outside is going against what you truly believe, which is really some of it is a learned trauma response to protect ourselves. So I started to recognize that, and I really started to work with RAS, which is the reticular activating system, because I started, and I that's the voice in my head. She's the secretary. How I have cultivated a relationship with her is I have become that person that will have conversations with herself because I'm talking to the voice in my head out in thin air. And I mean, my family's used to it now. Some people, when I'm out in the store saying something and something comes in at a weird time, I'll respond. I've gotten weird looks, but that is a cognitive dissonance that I had to work with, because for a long time, I when I was younger, I was highly intuitive. And sometimes when you come in and you're full blown, you get, that's crazy. That doesn't. So that was a cognitive dissonance that I had to work with to build the cultivating relationship with the voices in my head. But with the reticular activating system, I really analyzed what memos she was sending me and where I was kind of feeding into that energy. When I really got into human design with my authority, which is an emotional center, we have waves, high waves. Our thoughts are pleasant. We think everything's great. We have the really good thoughts and we're elated, and we have the low periods. The waiting for clarity is the best strategy ever, because for me, that's that sweet spot. That's where I can really crystal clear hear the voices in my head and start to have a conversation with them and ask them these important questions. If it's not clear, to go deeper. Let's explain, let's unpack that. I need some more information. And the more that it takes practice, the more you tune into it, just like you said in that experience. It's interesting you say about the judging, because I had that happen to me recently. And I did the same. I was like, where is this coming from? And what I backed up is I did not shield myself going into an event. I did not protect myself like I normally do. I went in wide open, and I was picking up on other people's thoughts, feelings, and emotions. But when you do start to develop a relationship with the voices in your head, you will be able to catch yourself, because you'll be like, okay, well, where is this coming from? It's like a red flag, like there's something, but you have to. Mindfulness is the one thing that really helped me get clear on what was talking, who the voices were coming from, and if I was feeding them to my reticular activating system. So I kept manifesting more and more and more, or I switched it with the affirmations to where I was like, I want positive things. So that's
great.
that.
Thank you so much for sharing that. Thank you. Thank you. Soulara Sevier?
Sure, I'll go next. Thank you, ladies, for bringing in the science aspect of things. It's again nice to merge the two. The spirit and science realm. When I think about myself and how have I cultivated that relationship. Interestingly enough, it began when I was at a very young age. I could always hear and see, if you will, using those intuitive gifts, but I didn't hear the word empath, like I said, until like 2011, like much, much later in life. But I could hear and I could see. And then there, as Saidi was saying, there's a knowingness. Like you don't know how and why you just kind of know. And I remember one time I was in a situation. I was a kid. I was at the playground, and I was with my sisters. And it was kind of a neighborhood sort of playground. So we were by ourselves initially. We noticed that some neighborhood children came in, like some boys came in. And so, you know how you kind of, again, this made a bit intuition, but we kind of looked, we were like, okay, it's time for us to go. They don't look too friendly. This is not going to be, where we need to be. So, we were leaving and then realized that there was one of the sisters had kind of stayed behind to grab a pair of shoes or something, in the sand. And so, the moment we realized that she wasn't with us and turned around, she was like being attacked by these boys. We were like, oh my goodness, we got to run over here and help save her. And, it's just this, this sort of mindset of just bullying. And so we ran over there, we grabbed her. And so again, these were boys and they were much bigger and we didn't really, have a way to defend ourselves. So we ran, we were running. I heard this voice said, now my back was towards these boys, but the voice said, jump. Now imagine you're running, your back is to danger, and you hear a voice that said jump. I just jumped, like I didn't have time to question it. The moment I jumped, there was a bat that went sideways underneath my feet, like spiral. Had I not done what the voice told me to do, I would have tripped and fallen and, been pretty badly hurt. So that was, as far as I can remember, the first time that I heard a voice that I knew wasn't mine, but it told me to do something and I trusted it. In the midst of what would, some would say chaos. And so I thought about it later on. I said, wow, like, who was that? Like, because I don't know, it's still to this day, I don't know who that was. But I kind of tucked that into my pocket and said, okay, that was pretty neat. I wasn't hurt. Time went on and I had several other experiences where I would hear things. And this was all towards like myself. And kind of being protected and being made safe. And the interesting thing was I found out that I could do that for other people. So it was in the cultivating of my own understanding. And as you all were saying, okay, well, who was that? A little bit later after the bat situation, or, later on where I heard a voice say, no, don't go here, or leave this place. It's like, okay, I learned to kind of take the urgings of that voice, kind of the tone, if you will. Sometimes the tone is different and it'll make you pause and stop. So kind of navigating my own experience with the voice helped me to cultivate it. And so that when I would hear for other people, I could work with how to deliver, that message. So it's kind of, working with myself and then being able to help other people. And what I would say, kind of for others, when we talk about like allies, as far as this voice in our head, we have to really get clear on, if the voice is saying something that is helpful, because there are times where from a medical practice, sort of perspective, we will hear, oh, this is hallucinations, this is, all these other mental health problems that they'll say. But we do have to be honest here. We have to be aware if the voices are saying harm yourself or harm someone else. If you don't know how to control that and go into that, then I would say definitely seek assistance like immediately. If you're feeling like, because haven't we heard those stories where, there's a, something that happens and then the person is saying, well, I heard a voice tell me to do X, Y, or Z, right? So, for those who may be listening, if you're hearing voices that are saying something to that extent, please seek some, assistance, professional assistance. But I would say once you move past that and you do have that ability to differentiate, like, wow, I am hearing this and I want to learn more about it, then it is some sort of protective techniques that someone should learn. There is some sort of energy clearing that I believe should take place so that you can get balance and get kind of clear on who you are. You have to reconnect to that inner wisdom that will really help to guide you through this self-discovery. And then once you kind of get into, who you are and kind of getting that firm grounding, and again, this doesn't happen overnight. This is a process. That's why we're all here to help with this awakening and our special unique gifts. We can help people tap into that part of themselves that knows, how to receive the voice and how to act upon it or not act upon it. Or as so many of us have said here tonight, is it even our voice? And again, I had to learn that as well. So hopefully I've answered that question, but basically cultivating through working with myself, realizing that, oh, this isn't just for me, it's a gift to help other people. And then just being that guidepost for those who don't quite yet understand it or know how to work with it.
Thank you so much for bringing that in. I really appreciate that. Yeah. Saidi?
Thank you. Could you repeat the question again? How do we
Yeah,
cultivate?
Yeah, how do you cultivate a relationship with the voices in your head?
Okay, great. Yeah, and just I think returning back to where I don't, I experience it more as feelings and such, but it's really been a lot of self-exploration and going into um how do things feel in my body? How am I being reactive? Am I moving from a place of fear or from a place of love? What are the thoughts and ideas moving me towards? Like, how are they making me feel? Like, just this morning there was something where I'm really learning right now to not do, to just simply allow and flow and be, and not try to force anything. And I found myself today just kind of like, okay, so what do I need to do today? I need to do this, this, and this. And it's like my guides are like, no, 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 you don't. And I'm like, that's me again, trying to force things. So, but I could feel like the tension was moving in, and the kind of the stress around that when I felt like I needed to, when I was listening to this other part of myself that told me, again, based on old belief systems, that we have to do things in order to achieve things, that's an old pattern. So but again, it just kind of comes in this wave of like this kind of little anxiety feeling that comes in. It's just like, and then it kind of propels me into this specific path or mindset, or wanting to be action oriented in a certain way. But I've learned now that feeling like, okay, that's not open, that's not expansive, that's not I'm not feeling free flow. I'm feeling a sense of anxiety. I'm feeling tension. And when I'm feeling those things, I know to start exploring that more and start asking the questions of myself. And on the flip side, when I'm feeling like really super activated and just like, wow, I'm feeling so freaking amazing, and I want to do this, and I want to do this, and I want to do this, it's just like, hold on. You're having a great time right now, but maybe we should just wait a minute, give it a day or two before you act on all of this, because yes, you're feeling like really elevated at this moment, but that is likely to change. So for me, it's been a lot of self-exploration. It's a lot of writing. If I'm thinking things, if things are going on, I write about it and see what comes through in that way. And speaking with my guides, and I guess that's maybe not necessarily a way that I hear voices still, not to be like hung up on that, but I'm just working with this in my own way. It's learning, I guess there's that self-exploration again. It's learning how to ask questions, because we take so much of this just at face value. I'm feeling this, therefore that, let's dive into that. And I know it's been said a couple of times here, but what does that mean? Where did that come from? Is that mine? Like I said in the beginning about what I do with supporting people is helping them to look at belief systems, and the belief systems that aren't serving. So many of us just take them on because it's what we've learned in society, and we haven't learned to question, is that mine? Does that actually feel good to me? Is that my truth? What we don't even think to add. This was not until going to social work school when I started learning like way more about critical thinking, and to just start questioning more of my own thoughts. They're just so, we don't question like, well, the sky is blue, so we don't stop to think about questioning that. There's so many things we just take at face value and we don't dive into it, because why would we? Until we start learning critical thinking, which they don't really teach us in our younger years. You're just like, this is this and this is this, and you believe that and don't question that. So we learn that. And then as we get older, hopefully we get around some people, or maybe get into some schooling that helps us to start questioning those things that we've just taken at face value. And that really means questioning ourselves. We have so many beliefs, and we believe our heads, that whatever they tell us, whatever the thoughts are, we're just like, oh, okay, so that must be true about like our self-worth and such. We just like, okay, well, that must be true. we have to start questioning that. Where does that come from? Does that actually feel good to me? You know, I think I'm going to push back on some of these because it's not working out for me so well, you know? So that's how I've learned to cultivate a relationship with my own thoughts and belief systems and my mental machinations. Like, you know, is that serving me? Is that getting me where I want to go? Is that aligning me with the love and joy and peace that I want to feel? And if it's not, then let's get into that a little bit, and let's find a new one, you know. And I'm at this point in the game, I'm not really all that much about diving into story. I don't really care so much where it came from. Sometimes that can be helpful, but where I'm at now and where I'm helping clients, like, let's just find a new way, you know. We don't, there, who knows where it came from, and getting to the bottom of it doesn't necessarily fix it or change it. So let's just find a new way and work with the energy. That's why I find energy healing to be so powerful. It bypasses the story. We don't need to get into that. And again, working with some of that can be helpful. Of course, our minds are beneficial, but we can get lost in that and trapped in that thinking. So yeah. How do we want to feel? How do we want to be in this world, and how do we align with that, and how do we move forward in alignment with that, and kind of just let go of the other stuff? So that's been a lot of it for me. Really deciding how I want to be, what do I want to experience in this world, and then aligning with that and letting go of the other. So I hope that answers the question.
Good. Thank you so much. Thank you, everybody. I do want to say something to what you were saying about the story. I've had the privilege and joy of studying in a number of indigenous cultures over the last 40 years. And every single one of them talk about when a trauma happens, you get to tell the story 3 times. When it first happened, when you're creating a reason to get over it, and then when you release it. And then after that, anytime you're repeating the story, you're really just re-injuring yourself. So
Absolutely.
that now, sometimes the story pieces still need to come up. I'm not saying that, but it's learning to live outside the story. And then, like you were saying, understanding that we can heal and not actually have to know the cause of it.
So much. I mean, it doesn't matter how we got the cold. Let's just get over the cold, you know. And we don't go running down like, who did this to me? Where did this cold come from?
Where did I get it from? What strain is this? How did this happen? It's not necessary. My body knows, and I love what you're bringing up, and also Soulara, about just that intuition, that hit. We have so much internal knowledge available to us. We always talk about like the 5 senses. There's over 22 senses that we have access to, and probably more that we don't even know. I wrote a book about sensing energy, finding your unique way to sense energy, because we can use so many of these tools without having to dive into the story. You know, it's like the voice in my head about my mom. I didn't go back over all the times she did this and what a terrible person was. I just said, tell me more, what's going on? And what came up was, this is how we made mom not a bad person. And then I can say, oh, I understand that. And actually from that point on, that voice and I work very differently together, you know, without, like you said, having to go out into the story, without, you know. And I love what Soulara says, is this, am I listening to something that's mine? Is it something else? Is it something outside? How do you help people do that? So I really want to thank everybody. The last question was, what advice would you give to those watching to help them turn the voices in that they may have into allies? And I think we all have done that. So what I'd like to do in the last few minutes is I'd like to go around, and I'll call on you so we can get through this. Please, any last moment advice quickly that you might have or you might want to add, and then tell us a little bit about yourself, if you have any offers, how people can get in touch with you, because you're all just such magnificent women. I wish we could just all live in a community and hang out. Which we do through Sacred You. I got to say, Sacred You is just a wonderful place. We get to meet just amazing people all the time. I just want to be physically around everybody. So I guess, Saidi, let's start with you.
Okay, some final thoughts. Again, I go into cultivating more connection with our bodies, coming down into our bodies, trying to get out of the mind so much. And there's a number of ways to do this: movement practices, dancing, putting our hands, our feet on the earth, like getting more connected with the earth, and listening to our bodies, feeling into our bodies. How is the body feeling when something's coming up? And try to getting out of this story, going into the feelings of it. That's been really helpful for me to come down out of my head and connect with my heart more. And again, listening to our hearts. And that's a big one, learning how to follow the heart, because we are so into our minds. So, but any way that we can start listening to that more, and cultivating practices finding practices that can cultivate that for you more.
Right.
You can find out more about me on my website at www.healingsacredfeminine.com. And from there, you can find all my social links. I have a lot of videos on YouTube that dive into a lot of these unhealthy belief systems that I've been talking about this evening or this morning, wherever you are in the world, or afternoon. I offer a variety of energy and sound healing sessions, one-on-one sessions and guidance sessions, as well as programs, really intensive programs to deep dive into all of this when you're ready to not get to the bottom, but I don't know, clear it all out. Create a whole new belief system for yourself. And each week comes with an energy healing session. So not only are we working with it, learning about what's going on and working with the belief systems, we're working with the mind, but we're working with the energy body, working with our spirituality, working with, because we're holistic, we're complicated, multi-layered beings, and we really need to work with all of this from many angles. So to step into this new world that we're creating and this new earth consciousness, we are ready to shed some major stuff. So yeah, I look forward to connecting with you all, and thank you again so much for this format and this forum and this topic. Great stuff, and lovely to meet you all.
Thank you. Soulara, how about you next?
Thank you so much. It has been a pleasure being here with each of you this evening. My last words would be regarding our topic of the voices in our head is to really begin that journey of self-discovery. It's not until we begin to understand who we are, what our unique gifts are, and how we can be of service with those gifts, that we can really begin to understand why we have experienced certain things, and maybe why we sort of contracted into our life as we know it, families and backgrounds and all of that. And then begin a healing process. The healing is mind, body, and soul. And I just really agree with everything that Saidi was saying, learning to tune into your body, whether that be through a practice of, yoga, Reiki, getting Reiki sessions. It's very important to clear and lift these energies that are sometimes epigenetic. Sometimes they just don't even belong to you. They belong to an ancestor, or, and if you're empathic, someone, your neighbor, it could be anything. So just getting to your authentic self. So clearing is what I would suggest for sure. You can find me on Instagram, Soul Reiki, Health, Beauty, and Wellness. And on that Instagram page, you will find my link tree, which has all the updates for events and everything that I'm doing. I will mention that on this coming Friday, I do LinkedIn audio events. And the topic right now is the hero's journey. One of the narrative greats, Joseph Campbell, we're talking about that. It's co-hosted with another soul entrepreneur as well, Jan Jeremias. And so also we have kind of taken that and parlayed it into a what we call a soul shop trilogy. We're doing 3 workshops back to back. We just started this past Sunday, so our registration is closing on September 10th. And we've just created a safe and healing space for community, delving into the self and healing and fusing Reiki and yoga. The last thing, if I may, would be this coming Sunday, I will be doing Reiki level 2, pardon me, certification and training. So if anyone is in the Metro Atlanta area and has their level 1, but somehow haven't had that opportunity to get level 2 training, I am here for you. And again, Instagram, Soul Reiki, Health, Beauty, and Wellness. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Soulara. Jennifer.
First, I want to say I loved what everyone had to share. It was beautiful to hear all the different perceptions and stuff come in. I would suggest to wrap up first is to, one, really build a relationship with yourself. Start diving into getting to know who you are, and start practicing meditation and mindfulness. What voices are playing in your head? I am really huge in keeping your temple clean. So doing things like, starting to clear out, get rid of eating the junk, the sugar. You could go to the extent of doing parasite cleanses, that stuff, because it will start to clear out all of this as well. And it'll help you start to decipher what voices are being fed. Just start to pay attention to you. That self-awareness, the self-care will really help start your journey. People can find me at riseinnerversity.com. I have a bunch of different offers. There's a free community to join. There is an InnerVersity with courses that you can join. The offer that I have recently out is an Enchanted Adventure Oracle reading that helps you discover what path you're currently on, the archetype you're embodying, what challenges you may have, and different messages that your ancestors have to bring up. So it's got a lot of different things in it. If you go to the website, you can send me a message. I will definitely send you a coupon code to get a special off for all the Sacred View members. So thank you again for having me on, and all you lovely ladies. I've really enjoyed it.
Thank you so much. And Sue, if you will have any last words of what you do, and also maybe tell us about your tribe on Sacred You.
Thank you. First of all, Heidi, thank you for bringing such a relevant, necessary, and needed topic. And having these incredible practitioners here with us, each one offering something very unique and very completing to the whole picture. And of course, Heidi, what you bring to the picture is the seed of all of this. So thank you for having this conversation in the first place. To wrap everything up, I think that it's important for people to recognize that these inner voices are our history. They are what made us who we are, and to recognize that going forward, we need to become friends with them, to move forward, perhaps beyond the stories that they have told us traditionally, historically, epigenetically from our ancestors and further back. And come to that place where we have a working partnership with them. That's a conversation. That means that we need to be saying, I see you and I hear you, in a way of validating and witnessing what they bring to us. And doing that with great compassion for who we were then, for how these voices are trying to keep us safe, and also great compassion for what the work that we need to do to become who we're going to become in the future, with the help of the inner voices. Of course, we never invalidate, we never shush them. We ask questions of them and partner with them. So it's a matter of negotiation. I think that's the piece that I'd like to leave everybody with, is that if you do have the inner voices, and as Soulara said, if those inner voices are harming of yourself or somebody else, definitely please take that moment to listen to the warning that the inner voice is giving you and seek professional help to manage that portion of it, so that you come back to the healthier inner voice when you're prepared to do that. What I do is I am, over the years, working with the inner voices, I have become an overwhelmed strategist. And I help highly sensitive people, also known as empaths, same thing, HSPs and empaths, who are on the verge of burnout to manage, yes, the inner voices, yes, the body sensations, and all of that intuitive sense that that has come to overwhelm them, the gifts that have kind of run rampant and gotten out of control. So I call myself an empath overwhelm strategist. And I'm an empath brain retrainer. I use both the spiritual, the metaphysical, and the scientific to talk people through the issues that are facing them. As a coach, we're not therapists, but we work with situations. So a client brings a situation to a coach and says, I need help to manage my way through this. And we create the management plan, the tools, the training, and the period of time that it's going to take, beginning to end, to reach that target. It's done with great sympathy, great compassion, great appreciation for where that person is, and gratitude that I'm able to take them to that next level, whatever that next level is. So I'm an empath trainer, an empath brain retrainer, an overwhelm strategist. And that's who I've become over 16 years of professional coaching with clients one-on-one and in groups. So I do offer both group workshops and one-on-one training. I'm in the middle of rebranding. So my website is kind of like, boom. If you visit, you're going to find some pages that say waitlist and partial information. Don't worry about it. Just get what you need out of it. I can be found at overwhelmmasterclasses.com. So easy. Overwhelmmasterclasses.com. And that website is a new website that will walk you through the various programs that I offer. There are 3 basic areas: one-on-one, elite, personal coaching. There is divorce identity coaching. There is business charisma coaching. Empaths do all these things. And sometimes we need to streamline it. So that's kind of where that all is, what my offer to everybody is. Join me for a coffee chat. And it can last anywhere from 20 minutes to 90 minutes. It's free, it's complimentary, and you'll find the link, the Calendly link, on my website, overwhelmmasterclasses.com. The next thing you asked me to talk about is my tribe host, my tribe, which is Life Force Activators on Sacred You. Sorry, I'm losing my voice. I apologize. But Life Force Activators is the fun place of being an empath. It's where you go to get that spark, that electrical spark that kind of infuses your life with an expectation and an excitement and inspiration. We do fun things. We do introspective things. We talk about cutting cords. We talk about talking to angels, taking out-of-body experiences, playing with energy balls, tossing them in the gallery one to another, and feeling they hit the amazing wonderfulness of it. So if you want more about that, you're going to have to find me, Life Force Activators, in the tribe area on Sacred You. So I think I've taken up all your time now, and it's time for you, Heidi, to tell us all about you.
Well, thank you, Sue, so much. And you wrapped it up perfectly. I don't even feel I need to wrap the conversation up. You pulled everything in just wonderfully. I want to thank all of you for being here. Such a pleasure. I know that Sophia will put all of your links and information and everything in the chat and in the boxes below the replay of all this, so you'll be able to get a hold of all of us. I'm Heidi Henyon. My website is HeidiHenyon.com, and I'm a coach, and my biggest thing is helping people become their own best friends. And I do that through a number of practices. I've studied indigenous, traditional and non-traditional ceremony, neurolinguistic programming, a whole bunch of stuff. You can find the formal bio over on my website. I just really love working with people. I have a retreat center outside of Washington, D.C., where people can come and either rent the space or do retreats with me. And then I have a tribe on Sacred You called Becoming Your Own Best Friend. and it has been on hiatus for a little bit because I've needed time to become more of my own best friend and sort of reevaluate some things and figure out life as we all go through those cycles. There's a wonderful thing now called the heroine's journey. And that was a woman that studied with Joseph Campbell and said the hero's journey is wonderful. It doesn't quite fit women. And I highly recommend you look up information about the heroine's journey. There's a workbook and everything. I actually work with my clients on it because women tend to cycle more just through things. And I'm not trying to be gender oriented or anything like that. It's just people with a lot of sort of the divine feminine in them. We cycle through things rather than having linear journeys. And the heroine's journey is all about that cycle journeying. So I am in one of those places right now. And one of the unique things also about women is we can be in multiple places at one time. Again, the feminine energy is very non-linear.
Thank you for sharing that.
You're welcome. So I've been taking some time to do that, and that's me. And our beloved Sophia, who is one of the founders of Sacred You, is back. And Sacred You is just a wonderful community where you get to hang out with amazing people like the ones you've seen on this panel.
Thank you, Heidi, and thank you so very much for facilitating this panel. Your first panel, which is wonderful. Congratulations. And I'm so glad that you're taking time for yourself and really looking forward to when your tribe restarts, because it's so true. It's taking time out to be our best friend. I love listening to everyone. I truly do. All the differences about, these little voices. There's so much that we can go on. I think, Heidi, we need a part 2. I really do believe we need a part 2 next year to redo this.
I can talk about this all day long.
Yeah,
so I'm happy to do that again.
Yeah, so I do think we need a part 2. Thank you, everyone, for being here, for Jennifer and for Sue and Soulara and for Saidi. Thank you for Trina, who's in the background, and, of course, our amazing VAs, Angel and Wilma, who have been putting everyone's links in the comments. For people who are watching, do click on those links, as these beautiful women have just taken an hour plus more out of their time to share their wisdom and their passion about these thoughts. So do click on these links and reach out to them. Have a coffee with them, a virtual coffee. Thoroughly recommend it. Coming up in 2 days' time, we have From Victim to Victor. Our next panel discussion is in 2 days, 48 hours, just over 48 hours time. Do tune in for that. Click on all the links below for everything else about Sacred You. And thank you ever so much for joining us. And we will see you next time.